Welcome to another edition of the Dementia Care Partner Talk Show. Now, here's dementia care expert Teepa Snow and your host, Greg Phelps.
Hello and welcome to the Dementia Care Partners podcast. My name is Greg Phelps, and joining me once again is dementia care expert Teepa Snow. Now, Teepa, in our last program, we talked about depression. Our topic this week is related, and it may be sensitive for some. Data out of Australia shows the murder of women has doubled over the past decade. Nearly half of the murders were committed by family members, and we're talking a lot of seniors. Now, I couldn't find any studies for the USA or Canada. I don't know whether those have been broken out, but surely this is a problem that's not necessarily unique to Australia. What do we do if we suspect there are problems, even not going that far? But how do we intervene or how do we investigate?
One of the trickiest things about senior abuse or spousal abuse is it often happens behind closed doors. And historically, spousal abuse was a huge problem back in the 50s, 40s, and before that, because women were not seen as equal partners in things. And relationships were strained, and yet people would stay in relationships because they didn't have alternatives or options. With increasing numbers of people aging and relationships again becoming strained, whether it's child to parent or whether it's spousal or whether it's relationship, otherwise grandchild, what ends up happening when someone's starting to shift or change is that at first it tends to be verbal. And because we have so many negative beliefs about people living with brain changes, we assume that they're the problem. I mean, we even call it problematic behaviors, problem behaviors, challenging behaviors. And we're assuming it's the person living with the condition that's causing the problem. And we don't take that step back and look at the situation and really evaluate what about this situation could be challenging someone. Because we're assuming that the other person in the relationship is in good shape cognitively, emotionally, socially. And it turns out that's not often the case because they've been pulled into a relationship that's changing. And the relationship is one of caring, of caregiving, of supporting someone outside their area of practice, background, history, and it's too much. Greg, I need you to sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Now, I could be the care partner, and you could be the person living with brain change of dementia, and you could have frontal temporal dementia. And when I do that, you might be really frustrated with me, as I am obviously with you. But whereas I used words, what might you use in that moment, Greg?
Well, because I've been trained by Teepa Snow, I probably know that I would use some gestures and try and indicate that a person should sit here.
Oh, so you're saying the outcome, this situation that we're talking about could dramatically change with some simple education and training and skill development?
I think that's what I said. Yeah, I think I just said that.
Yeah, because I'm concerned that the number of situations we're hearing about where there is abuse, where there is trauma, where there is drama, where it doesn't really need to be that way, but without awareness, knowledge, and skill, it will be a high-risk phenomena. And we know that Australia, and women aging in Australia, is the highest growing population in that country. And we've been there several times, and we know that we have heard over and over that situations where women have brain changes of dementia is creating lots of distress for their partners, for their families. And people don't know what to do. There aren't the resources they wish there were. So it makes a difference. In the States, we also know a lot of this takes place in spaces where people don't know it until people move into community. So when people do go into residential care, that might be the first time somebody realizes, whoa, he is really yelling at her. Wow, he's pretty heavy-handed. I see where those bruises came from. I'm not sure it was the edge of the door. I mean, until we have other people involved, it can really be hidden in plain sight. And, people with dementia fall, they get bruised, their faces get bruised up. Um, and it's easy to assume, wow, I've seen lots of people living with dementia that look like that. Um, and to assume that's the situation this time.
Now, what if I assume that's the situation, that
Mm.
Pa is beating up Ma, or Ma is in fact beating up Pa? If I
Mhm.
phone the police, do
Uh,
they have the skills necessarily to come in and sort that out? Now, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just
no, I mean,
curious.
yeah, because it really depends. I mean, it's highly dependent on where you are. We can go one county over, and we have really specialized teams that have been actually upsourced and uptrained, so they do know how to investigate these. And we can go one little area over and find that that town doesn't have anything. They're still on, cops and robbers mode. And I mean, I work with Project Lifesaver, the international group, and they really have found there's huge variability in our public service sector in regard to fire and police departments and sheriff's departments and mental health support. It's so variable that it makes it really, really risky. And as a matter of fact, there are situations where former law enforcement providers, officers, develop dementia or post-traumatic stress disorder and become someone who would never have done this, and as a matter of fact kept others from doing this, and they might be at high risk for not tolerating the stressors and distressors that come with providing support and care for somebody who is experiencing brain change.
Teepa, we do a short podcast on all these subjects. We've taken the lid off something that really you can't do in a podcast. Can I phone somebody? Can I go online with somebody and try and sort things out so that I don't end up in a situation where Dad's arrested and Mom was actually the pain in the, how do we do that?
Sure. So my recommendation is, yeah, you want to talk to someone, and whether it's at Positive Approach to Care or otherwise, you want to get someone who is not judgmental, someone who's truly curious with you, supportive of you, really helping you sort out data before you shift into an accusatory mode or a thought of, no, this can't be. But in fact, getting you to look hard at what you know and what you don't know, who's involved and who isn't, and who might be a safe option to do some of the exploration that doesn't involve you, and how that might happen. Because we believe by being thoughtful when we get started, we can avoid some of the pitfalls of, yeah, you got to report it to the police. It's like, pause, let's think, is that the best place to report this? Is this the best option to explore? Or is there something else we should be thinking about first, given their background, given their situation, and given their prominence? I mean, because sometimes these are public figures that we want to double check on, and we don't want to start something that might explode.
Teepa, thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
You've been listening to the Dementia Care Partners podcast, brought to you by Positive Approach to Care. For more information, go to teepasnow.com.